all who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for justice, for community, for spiritual nourishment, for love, for a place to celebrate, a place to lament, a place to be. Come. This space has been set aside for you. The table has been set. No one is excluded. Everybody is welcome, and God is here. Let us acknowledge the blessing that is and worship together. As we come to our time of prayer, I'm giving thanks for Black History Month and for the contribution of many Black Americans to this country and certainly to our world, and inviting others to use this time as a time to normalize the recognition of those contributions, not only in these 28 days, but always. We are in prayer today for Luis Perez, our dear friend in Matanzas, Cuba, who suffered a heart attack this past week and continues to recover in the hospital. We are in prayer for Janet Wise Thomas. She requests prayer. She is having surgery to remove a thymoma tumor on this Thursday at Duke University Hospital, and so we ask that you would pray for her healing and for her comfort, as no one is allowed to be with her during the time she's in the hospital. We're in prayer for the Stevens Powers family. Libby's Aunt Jean died last night in West Virginia after a brief illness. And we are praying for Lydia Kenton Hall and Julia Hall. We hold vigil with them right now. Lydia is in labor, and the couple awaits their first child. Let us continue in prayer. God, this morning we give thanks for the rain that waters the earth, providing water to drink, food for our sustenance, and a reminder of the interdependence of all creation, a reminder of your faithfulness to send showers of blessings, things that we need, but are incapable of manufacturing ourselves. If we have yet to formally greet the blessings of this day, we pause to acknowledge them now. Thank you. We also thank you that today many of us are in possessions of blessings that are the manifestation of things we prayed for and waited for. And some of these things have accompanied us for so long that we almost forgotten that we are living with miracles, that we are living miracles. Thank you. We long to see more of these miracles in our lives, in our world, to see relationships repaired, justice prioritized, the hungry full, the homeless housed, disease eradicated, and the environment restored. So we now offer the concerns on our hearts and minds individually as part of this collective petition. And now we wait with hope and expectation. We wait with perseverance as we work toward the things we pray for. We wait in faith for the things that are beyond our control. With you, with each other, together, we wait. Hear now these words from the prophet Isaiah. Have you not known? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth, who does not faint or grow weary, whose understanding is unsearchable, who gives power to the faint and strengthens the powerless. Even youths will faint and be weary, and the young will fall exhausted. But those who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. And from the Gospel of Mark, As soon as they left the synagogue, they entered the house of Simon and Andrew with James and John. Now Simon's mother-in-law was in bed with a fever, and they told him about her at once. He came and took her by the hand and lifted her up. Then the fever left her, and she began to serve them. That evening at sundown, they brought to him all who were sick or possessed by demons, and the whole city was gathered around the door. And he cured many who were sick with various diseases and cast out many demons. And he would not permit the demons to speak because they knew him. In the morning, while it was still very dark, he got up and went out to a deserted place, and there he prayed. And Simon and his companions hunted for him. When they found him, they said to him, "Everyone is searching for you." He answered, "Let us go on to the neighboring towns, so that I may proclaim the message there also, for that is what I came to do." And he went throughout Galilee, proclaiming the message in their synagogues and casting out demons.
Before I became a parent, I prided myself in being able to drive from Raleigh to Shelby without stopping. In doing so, I could make that trip that would take others about 3.5 hours in about 3 hours. Once I became a parent, the 210-mile trip that would then take others 3.5 hours all of a sudden took my carload 4.5 hours. What had been a non-stop trip became a multi-stop adventure. Why? Mom, I need to go to the bathroom. Mom, I need a snack. Mom, I'm tired of being in this car. Life with kids required me to be vigilant in watching for the road signs that read, "Rest area ahead." It only took about 2 trips between Raleigh and Shelby after becoming a parent before I didn't need the rest area signs ahead. I had memorized the mile markers where all the rest areas were located. You just don't have a lot of time when the call comes from the back seat, "Mom, I've got to go." And do you have any idea how long kids can take at a rest stop? A long time. And there is a lot of waiting. Those parenting moments were a challenge for me. By nature, I'm not a slow down, rest area kind of person. Never have been. The sooner I can get there, the faster I can go, the harder I can work, the more I can put on my plate way of life seems to be the way that energizes me. Waiting, resting, stopping is counter to my nature. That is why when I read Isaiah 40, I cringe a bit. Youths will faint and grow weary, the young will fall exhausted, but those who wait upon the Lord, they will renew their strength. They shall run and not be weary, they shall walk and not faint. There is no arguing that Isaiah 40 offers some of the most beautiful poetry in all of Scripture. The closing metaphor of rising up with wings like eagles is the poetic pinnacle of the passage and harkens back to an earlier time of the Exodus when God declared, "You have seen what I did to the Egyptians and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself." It is indeed a comforting passage, especially to those who are weary and tired, and especially to those who are feeling old and weary and tired. To hear that even youth will grow tired and weary, and that young people will fall exhausted, gives the older, tired and weary some comfort. The waiting, the need to stop at the rest area, finally gets validated. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. But what of this idea of waiting upon the Lord? What does it really mean? Does it mean we stop what we're doing, pull off at the rest area, and just wait for God to tell us our next move, or when it is time to get back on the road? Do we wait to grow those eagle's wings so then we can rise up and run? I want to suggest that our gospel text from Mark helps us understand the kind of waiting upon the Lord that Isaiah speaks of. Let me recap what's going on in our gospel text and possibly build a bridge between these two texts. Jesus and his disciples had been together in the synagogue doing what they do in the synagogue. We're told they leave the synagogue and go to Simon and Andrew's house with James and John, where Simon's mother-in-law is in bed sick with a fever. They tell Jesus about her, how sick she is, and Jesus goes to her. And we're told he takes her by the hand and lifts her up. Then we are told, and I quote, "The fever left her, and she began to serve them." Now, it would seem wrong to just keep going with the story and not pull off the road here to address this one sentence in this text. For 50% of you listening, you wouldn't hear anything else said if I didn't stop here. And I'm right there with you. You are thinking, as I am, so we heal the woman so she can get up and serve the men. That's the way this part of the story comes off. And even if it's not exactly what it looks like, and I'm not saying that it's not, the fact that texts like this have been used to keep women subservient to men is a problem. A big problem. The patriarchy has zeroed in on texts like this one to keep women oppressed and marginalized. It is important, when we come across statements like this in our text, to stop and to name the abuse women have endured and suffered because of Christianity's unwillingness to address how our sacred text often oppresses women and anyone else who is not a cisgender man. And so we name it, acknowledge it, and condemn it. And the story continues. That evening at sundown, the disciples brought to Jesus all kinds of people who were sick, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And we're told that the whole city gathered around the door of Simon's house. And that evening, Jesus spent the whole night, healing the sick. In the morning, we're told, before daybreak, Jesus gets up and goes out to a deserted place, and there, he prays. He takes the exit to the rest area. He gets off the fast-paced highway to take care of his needs, to pray, to be with God, to connect with himself. And when he doesn't show up on time, his friends go looking for him. They deploy the search team, and when they find him, they let him know that everybody's been worried and searching and looking for him. But hear his response. Let us go on to the next town and keep doing the work we've come to do, to heal the sick, to release the captives, to give sight to the blind, to proclaim the good news to the poor. To wait upon the Lord, to renew our strength, to run and not be weary, to walk and to not faint, to rise up with those eagle's wings, is to be willing to see and heed the signs that say, rest area ahead. To watch and listen for the internal signals that we need to pull off the busy highway and take care of our own spiritual needs. To pray, to connect with God, to connect with ourselves, to let our spirit rest, to take a deep breath, to renew our strength. To wait upon the Lord doesn't mean we stop the work we've been called to do, to heal the sick, to release the captives, to give sight to the blind, to proclaim the good news to the poor. No, there is no idle or empty waiting. The waiting upon the Lord is that time in the rest area and at the rest area where we tend to our relationship and our connection to the one who calls us to then rise up with eagle's wings and to renew our strength to keep proclaiming the good news to a world desperately in need of some good news. As hard as it is for me to admit, the rest area, the deserted place, is not optional. I used to think it was. Those of you who knew me as a young minister might remember the woman who tried to do it all. But life has been a demanding teacher. It is not an option to not stop along the way. Forget the pride. Forget the getting there sooner and faster. The rest area is essential. Maybe for you it is hard to admit that going on to the next town to run and to not be weary is not optional. It is not an option to just stay at the rest area, to avoid the traffic and hassle of the road. The rest area and the moving on down the road are both required. In the doing, there is waiting, and in the waiting, there is doing. A life of faith is a long road trip. And the rest areas are a necessity. And so is being on the road that takes us to the next town, that moves us closer and closer to our destination. The destination of the wolf living with the lamb, of justice rolling down like water, of racial and economic justice, of a world where no one is hungry and all are safe from war and violence, of a world where all are welcome at the table of love. This table is a rest area. It is a place where we stop to care for ourselves, to remind ourselves that we are loved, to be renewed, to be refreshed, to be refilled. And this table is the road that takes us to the next town, the next place where we are being called to go back out into the world to share the good news with the poor and the lonely and the hurting and all who suffer from violence and from the violence of systems that oppress and marginalize. At this table, we receive, and from this table, we give to others. We receive the gifts given to us at this table, the bread of life that gives power to the faint. That was a little messy. The cup of love that strengthens the powerless. We bless the bread and the cup and renew our strength. You were invited to set your table with something to share with someone else, a neighbor, a friend, a stranger. This symbolizes that we not only receive from this table, but we give back from this table. We give back to the world the gifts given to us at this table, and we bless our gifts of love and grace and welcome. We bless the gifts we brought to share. May they bring love and grace and welcome to those who will receive them. Let us now gather around our tables to receive and to give back. Everything has meaning, And I am reminded this morning in the breaking of the bread how sometimes breaking bread with others can be messy and crumbly. But nonetheless, we gather around the table where all are welcome to break that bread and to share it in whatever ways we're called to share it. And I know that you are a people who share, who take what you receive from this table and from your own life and from the blessings that you receive, and you give back. And for that, I am grateful and am so blessed to be a part of this community and to know you, the beautiful people of Pullen. Hear now this benediction. Do not be dismayed by the brokenness in the world. All things break, and all things can be mended. Not with time, as they say, but with intention. So go, love intentionally, extravagantly, unconditionally. The broken world waits in darkness for the light that is in you, for your eagle's wings to run and not be weary, to walk and not faint. Go in peace.